I'm trying to think our sensory interactions with our digital info communication environments. It seems to me important to initiate these reflections to think beyond or below the dualism, subject, object, subject, collective, nature, culture, techniques, culture, and so on, inherited from the modern classical Western paradigm. And I formed the hypothesis that the philosophers who have built an approach of milieu output of this framework can help us address the current issue related to the digitization of symbolic and the increasing cross-linking of our lives. This also implies to think the experience as involving the countless forms that take the interaction of a living being with his environment. The framework led this way is vast, and this communication a pretext to initiate its exploration by a spotlight on the social network platform Facebook. I will first present some thoughts of milieu to extract dimension that seems heuristic to me. Then I will explore how to articulate this approach with the semiotic analysis of the Facebook platform. I inspire me with this citation of Georges Perec about l'infraordinaire. What is the infraordinaire in our lives? The increasing cross-linking tools that form the fabric of our practices have led in information science and communication talking about transmedia environment. MERSO, or environment support, ZACLAD, characterized by the pervasiveness of information, according to MERSO, which flows, surrounds, wraps up. This approach seems insufficient to support an organological approach that aims to capture the genesis and transductive operation, biological, physical, mental, social. Clarifying the sense as direction, meaning, effect of our digital environment as places of psychic and collective individuation processes, and capture these processes, and on the horizon to conceive the milieu as both internal and external to the subject. Von Wexkull, Simondon, Berck, Watsuji, each in their own way work to decentralize the way of thinking that makes our noetic milieu by a movement of change of scene, empathy with the other, the animal species for von Wexkull, Japan for Berck, objects and technical systems for Simondon. Following their steps, I tried to implement a scientific approach, immersive change of scenes, as an experience which could help out of routines of thought to explore our relationship with the digital environment as it constitutes us, to try thinking neither inside nor overhanging, but in the change of scene and contagion, that in which we think. For Simondon, individuation of the living is a continuous operation that structures a system without separation of the individual and its complementary, the associated milieu. For von Wexkull, like for Simondon, the living is a performance that shines in his milieu. His approach exceeds the mechanistic and tropistic schemes, even for the simplest living things. For von Wexkull, the living is an inherently semiotic system. Things that are encountered in the milieu appears as already charged with a significant actantial tone, and things are always being done in their interaction with the subject. This brings to question the symmetrical opposite perspective. The subject is always being done in the interaction with his milieu. Von Wexkull did not draw this ontological inference, but his striking analysis he makes point me to this question. This question can be explored with Simondon for whom the living being solves problems not simply by adapting to the milieu, but by changing himself, inventing new internal structures. And it comes to capture the movement of being according to its partiality and its future. But what about this fundamental dimension of perception? How are spatiality and time built in the interaction with our milieu? The work of von Wexkull makes appear time and space as co-constructs in the link between subject and milieu. Time is defined by instant as an expression of elementary and indivisible sensation. Analyses devoted to the tick are particularly striking to point to the radical change of the instant of an animal milieu to another. And from the tick to the digitic to the digital milieu, this experimental approach to the relationship between time and space as built in sensory and meaningful relationship to the milieu invites me to explore the dynamic structuration of relationship to time and space through the digital stratum of our existence. For Watsuji and Berg, human milieu are matrices for shared sensibility, and Berg translated the fudosei of Watsuji as a structural moment in sense of capacity to move of human existence. These structural moments makes the meaning of human milieu understood in its triple meaning: material orientation in space and time, carnal sensation and perception, meaning for the mind. For Simondon, the problem faced by psyche call an extension and resolution in the collective by the trans-individual as collective dimension of individuation, with the subject reached through the pre-individual charge of reality associated with the psyche. Leroy-Gourand thematized this passage as a process of technical externalization constituting the human, and Stigler developed fully this question and issue through the issue of constitutive tertiary retention. With Berg and Watsuji, I try to capture how the tertiary retention as tangible reality grasped by the senses, thoughts, words, and action, all sensitive dimensions of our infocommunicational digital milieu interact with our behavior and help shape value system. From these frameworks, I try to implement an embodied semiotics based on the activity of a sensitive operator in order to make sense of modes of actions and of meaning linked to the mode of space and time. My aim is to capture the trends of the device as a milieu, starting from a sensory exploration of the way it affects our practices. I will first explore the spatial and temporal dimension to grasp how form contributes to building a mode of space and time for action. Forms and experiences of the infraordinary. Pregnance is what surrounds and penetrates diffusely. The work of neutral in the interface is part of its range of dull blue for the background, and minimalist forms, colors, and forms play graphic poverty since the early version of the platform in the literal sense. From a genetic point of view over the design's update, I noted an increasing indifferentiation applied to various components of the design. Increasing graphic indifferentiation for the different fields of utterance, increasing indifferentiation for the profile page for people versus page for trademarks. More recently, in the merging of synchronous and asynchronous personal emailed fields, chat space and private message, and finally an increasing indifferentiation of uttering modes in the news feed. All types of statements are gradually washed into the same stream, and recently also the automatic suggestion of page. The design of the platform increased the fuzziness, blurred the boundaries, especially between interpersonal relationships and merchant relationships, a blur that produced habitus away from cognitive control. And the gradual diffusion of, I don't know if I have, no, of the like button shows the same type of mechanism. Initially associated only with publication, it has since become associated with all types of announcement, including automatic activity statements. Using the habitus thus created, FB then export it, Facebook then Facebook export it to the web milieu as a whole, thereby crossing a threshold virtually unnoticed. This produces an erroneous illusion of continuity, since there is a functional and semantic rupture. The addressed gesture of sociability disappears to the benefit of a mechanism documenting web navigation. This contributes to building a parallel web index. I interpret this neutral aesthetic infraordinary to quote Perec as mechanism of naturalization, but not naturalization is the same in the meaning of Simondon. Naturalization is what hide what constitutes them as tertiary retention, is cryptotechnicity for Simondon. In this way, they prevent the signification process built from the interpretation of signifier. This effect is also detectable in escort speech and interface speech. A lot of them fusionate the events of life, pretension and secondary retentions, with the tertiary retention. Do not miss anything. Access Facebook from your mobile phone, for example. The pregnancy is coupled with devices to produce salience designed to direct attention. Salience aims to focus attention and stimulate activity. They come from processes used in ergonomics to make a persuasive interface. Persuasiveness requires not only attention, but mostly action. The design to requisite behavior is made more effective by the pregnancy in background. This hypothesis is acknowledged by the immediate reaction of rejection following design updates, creation of anti-groups, reaction statements, and correlatively by the equally quick amnesia of what came before. These points led us to hypothesize that design produces adaptation mechanisms that are not subject to cognitive control. In an experiment on identifying persuasive elements of the interface, only 7% of Facebook persuasive elements interface are marked, while on a business aesthetic site, discount aesthetic, 100% found it. On the platform, the grip is lived and dominates without even giving a chance for analysis. Frame of space and time. The time involved in the production of the subject through the experience of the moment is the smallest indivisible temporal expression of basic feelings. Small form of instant publishing allows synchronization between the stream of consciousness and the flow of tertiary retention. In the course of this restructuration, in the updates, the platform has changed from a page that was broken down into thematic segments to an ever more fluid temporal object and real time. The retention apparatus invites users to sequence temporal objects of consciousness. What is your mode? Express yourself, write a comment, say something about this. The convergence between the capture of the real and instant networking of experience by mobile devices reinforce the production and circulation of audiovisual material, photo, video, music, that grammatize experience. Some technical and functional dimension of the platform are in line with this pattern of use. Functionally, a statement can be shared if it's accompanied by a document. Technically, edge-rank weighting algorithms favor audiovisual document publication. In terms of usage trace, the interaction on a published statement takes place in a very short time window. In terms of the interface apparatus, notification on the pregnant dissemination of the share button and highlight in the web environment, incentive to orient the intentionality of consciousness on the platform and on other Pinterest, Twitter, etc. Actantial tones. So a lack of indifferentiation that level in the same flow all what happens. The what happens being both life and publication. The spatial and temporal objects reduce cardinality and calendarity. Actantial tones. For the perceiving subject in its milieu, the perceiving thing is always completed by an actantial thing. Okay. Which makes it possible to see the performance within the object. I will cut some parts. The embeddedness of enunciative acts to their contribute to their subjective and emotional anchoring, sharing of an emotional nature when combined with instantaneity, leads to consider the sharing of documents as relating to the impulsive that acculturate users and contributors to their appropriating the competence related to capturing the attention of their audience. I'm therefore coining the neologism emotility. Where is? No, it's not here. Emotility, A as in electronic and emotion, the efficacy of the small instant semiotechnical form of publication such as the like can be seen as the salience associated with the emotional as frequent motivation for subscribing publishing. Motility refers to a living organism's capacity to move and to the attributes that enables its movements. The system programs the enunciative mobility and as such can be considered as a potential for mobility, a system of enunciative mobility. FB as a technical individual is a symbol of its associated milieu. I will focus on the potential of the tool for psychic and collective individuation processes. The emotil mode of enunciation at play between neutral and salient in the play between neutral and salient in the design of persuasive interface organize the adaptation to patterns of use and are designed to program the activities of the subject, what Fogg called captology. These features lead us to hypothesize that a behavioristic model of the subject is materialized in the design. Exchanges with the milieu are deterministically oriented to coupling stimuli responses. The play between retention helped us highlight the potential of the device to synchronize consciousness with the temporal object that sets and trivializes the time of immediacy as standard. And the interface discourse contributes to a crushing effect, experience being taken as what happens with tertiary retention. The device is designed to grammatize the stream of consciousness while producing an extremely labile environment for users. This lability on the front office side corresponds to a powerful system of grammatization of subject and of collectives in the back office. And the sensitive characteristics of lability, poverty, visual flatness participate of the instrumental rationality of the device as a book of sound, to quote Borges, oriented toward producing profit and not toward producing common funds for subject and collective. FB as externality group Lewin, or structure group, Simondon, does not really leave room for the constitution of the in-group. This condition of precarization of the inner group are also maintained by the relational models listed in the interface. The friendship model is substituted by a model that combines scoping impulse, thematization, and computability, which led me to see a therefore process of reification in FB design, a becoming think of oneself, a becoming think of the relationship through thematization the other, and a becoming think of the collectivity. Thus, the subject and collective model, as we were able to show, unveils itself below the animal species model proposed by von Uexküll, which he developed in firm opposition to the mechanistic and behavior models. He characterizes either the wealth or the poverty of the milieu as based on the number of objects distinguished by different actantial tones. A poor milieu is a more certain environment, whereas a rich milieu is a more uncertain environment. On the basis of these criteria, it's tempting to deduce with von Uexküll that the trend's poverty and certainty takes precedence on the trend's richness on uncertainty. With Simondon, we interpret this direction of the technical individuation processes as a decrease in tension, a spatial and temporal indifferentiation process which hypostasizes the past and the future into the moment. This entropic dimension leads to the destruction of the metastability potential, transforming genesis into degradation. The milieu thus defined is mechanically associated, but under the control of a dissociation potential as regards the psychic and collective individuation processes. I make a number of propositions in relation to this trend. The grammatization of symbolic and relational in social network and their monetization via social web database can be considered as an external cause for orienting technical development, as well as psychic and collective individuation models. And the poor aesthetics which characterize the platform of digital milieu appears as the visible face of the Silicon Valley ideology and its business model. They want to make the world seem friendly, transparent, standardized for the purpose of an economy of symbolic. I present below some analogies related to these exogenous causalities of technical and human development. Should we interpret them as operation of transduction between organological dimensions or as mimetic contagion phenomena? The model generated by the interface gives the subject a place that combines a control position and an automate posture. Thus, they acculturate the subject to the instrumental rationality of the device. I interpret this as the contagion process of the computational over the design and on the models of activity offered to the subject. I also relate this phenomenon to the characteristic of digital writing as embodiment of mathematics. I see the regime of digital writings that can be read by the machine as partaking in the pre-individual reality of the technical individual, with individuation achieved through calculation, discretization, and abstraction operation. I shall describe it with Aristotle's concepts of choresis and aphiresis. I use them as heuristic tools to map out the different facets of numerical thinking and how they merge to constitute both cognition and practices. Choresis characterizes critically the Platonic separation between the world of ideas and the physical world. The digital world relies on different levels of separation between support and content, between the text that can be read by human accent and the text that can be read by computational accent. It substitutes the gesture that leaves a mark on the material by a common gesture. The digital world relies on different levels of separation between support and content, between the text that can be read by human accent and the text that can be read by It substitutes the gesture that leaves a mark on the material by a common gesture that can be seen as a coupure indicielle, indexical cut. Aphi-resist describes an intellectual operation of abstraction by which the mind simultaneously sees the essence and despoil an entity of its individualizing feature. This negative entrenchment and simplification operation led to ontological hierarchy in which simple and abstract beings are the most real. And in other works, I show how methodology of design use these processes. So these operations are founder of the model of scientific rationality in service of which the mathematical tool is generalized into a universal paradigm. This scientific rationalism is the source of the interpretation models of the world and our relation to this world as conquest and control. This model of instrumental rationality can envisage the meaning of existence and experience, can't envisage the meaning of existence and experience, such as it can be envisaged notably in the footsteps of the Japanese philosopher Watsuji. This trajectory relates to the intuition initially exposed as a quest for a new positioning, a change of sense, of truth, and of a contagion by the object. I have attempted here to broadly outline soft trends and dynamics related to infraordinary aspects of our digital lives, the way they subreptitiously become inescapable and generate habitus. I offered a perspective on the mechanism of requisition and of adaptation that transform our everyday life. It's a starting point toward an analytical and critical framework for thinking the apperception made possible by the new organological approach to digital technologies. Some opening remarks. How can the hermeneutical approach to digital milieu, its theoretical horizon and analytical tools help open up creative space? Instrumental rationality increasingly informs and conditions design practices. Emotional design and role to produce an aesthetic conditioning our experience. The main goal is to engage the user by fostering emotion. Rather than inviting people to take part, people are being requisitioned. Could aesthetic mediocrity rob the subject from his ability to feel, but also from the ability to project and dream digital apparatuses beyond prescribed behavior? Research in neurophysiology, Berthoz, consistent with our theoretical position, confirm physiological organs are articulated to the exterior world. We interiorize properties of the physical world and perceive it precisely through those properties. Is there a way to foster open and diachronic multiplicity instead of entropy and synchrony? How can we sidestep from such reductive frames? We need to rethink digital milieu design as the occasion of experiencing plurality, not as some whitewashing of technical constraints or as the means to implement further conditioning. How can we escape from those schemes of truth, either derived from computational logic and that's overdetermined concepts by hyper-industrial capitalism? I want to open a way with phenomenographic approach to describe, as the same way I describe the interface, to help create alternatively. It seems to me creative design has much to learn from such research. Anthropology of materiality, phenomenographic of Albert Piet, to conceive of an experiential and emotional design that would not be reduced to instrumental rationality. Rethinking devices as a nurturing milieu, both for individuals and groups, on every plane of experience, should mean that we pay attention to the many ways in which humans relate to their milieu. For instance, for those modes of being that have been overlooked by those who build our digital and physical work, physical environment, work or not. Structured procrastination, for example, is a good example of a creative mode of being that cannot function with the tool and in the space of our common environment. Another example will be introvert behavior. These modes of being are quite prevalent but foregone by the dominant rational base and functionality. Our physical and digital milieu has not been conceived for them. Together with Deleuze, we postulate that at its core, creative activity consists in inventing singular space-time blocks. How can we invent digital space-time blocks to dwell in, fitted to the singularities and idiorhythmics of individual and groups? Idiorhythmics, it's Barthes concepts. Conceiving device for digital places to live and dwell in while keeping at bay the model and templates we refuse. Rethinking aesthetics in relation to adopting and inhabiting instead of to adopting and expropriating. Aesthetics that would associate but not hypostasiate time and space, and take part in a non-behavioral, non-mechanistic manner. Aesthetic that will explore new ways of dealing with the digital machines, shaping up our sensibilities. To divert conditioning, one must first decrypt and denaturalize situation, and also manage a design, a bottom-up creative design, preferably to top-down design approach, to describe in detail and with no oversight. That sterilized creation and led to series or empty boxes born out of modes of simplification and abstraction that filter out reality. Dreaming up digital milieu, desautomating design, or automating it in the way of the surrealists like Perec invite to do in this little text. So I finish, sorry for the time for my very, very bad English.